Hey everyone, this is Brano, and I wanted to discuss sort of what types of games, what are the standards I need to meet in order to succeed financially in video games. And I think it's much more of a nuanced question than just you must make amazing games in order to succeed. I think there's a bit more nuance in terms of the quality of the execution of your game, and the quality of your execution is really dependent on what type of game you are making. One of the things I'm kind of noticing is that the concept of indie games is sort of really being eroded away into just being more so low scope games, to where gamers don't really care about who makes their games. They just want fun games that are enjoyable. And people don't play indie games because they want to play indie games. They want to play small scope games that do something that they like because they like games, which is really good because we're entering more of a broader market, but at the same time, that means more and more competition. So I think in general, when you are hoping to make money from this, when you are planning to, well, when you're trying to financially succeed in games, you need to have an idea as to what the standards are. And here's my view on this. Once again, games are a ever-changing system. There's a lot of exceptions, but I think this is sort of like the minimum benchmark you need to reach in order to have a reliable chance of succeeding with games. So, the first threshold is great games. If you make an objectively great game, I think you will get some financial success from this. And I don't mean that you think it's an 8 out of 10 game. I'm not going to say like Steam reviews gives it an 8 out of 10. I mean, the hardcore cynical gamers think it is an 8 out of 10. That is going to allow you to sell your game regardless of what genre it is. Because one of the big things like that gamers really enjoy is being able to share and talk about their experiences with other people who have gone through the same experience as them. Like, it's being able to share your experience with an art piece that is so valuable. And once the hardcore gamers give your game the thumbs up and say, hey, this is worth playing, the casuals will come in and they will start playing it well. I am just gonna say though that making an objective 8 out of 10 game, like a great game for the hardcore cynical gamer who does not care about the game developer's feelings whatsoever, that's incredibly hard, and that requires a lot of really good execution on your part. I think it's like you do need a bit of marketing for the kindling, but once that's alight, it's going to really just sell itself. So if you think you can make this 8 out of 10 objectively great game, then by all means do it. But just keep in mind that 8 out of 10 is somewhat relative into what other people's experiences are. So you may think it's an 8 out of 10 games, but to someone that enjoys Vampire Survivors clones, they're just going to say this is really generic. This is a 5 out of 10 for me, which is like an okay game. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's just nothing. Like, you've got to aim for really high standards if you want to succeed regardless of genre. Now, the second sort of tier with like 7 out of 10 all good games, and we're not talking about IGN 7 out of 10. We're talking about like the hardcore cynical gamers are going to give you a 7 out of 10. I think this is the standard for games that are in a genre with a high churn rate. So I've criticized the 2K comic before, where you have a guy who sees his competition's cake, which is way better than him, and goes, oh, no one's going to enjoy my cake. And then you see the audience is like, oh boy, 2 cakes. I reckon that if you make a good game in that type of, when the audience feels that way, you will financially succeed. You have a very, very reasonable chance of financial success with this. And I think those genres would be like horror, crafty buildy simulation games, infinite combo roguelikes, and adult games. These are the games where basically people play the game, they learn it, they get to experience it, and then they kind of are looking for the next thing to occupy their time. I think these are the types of games where a 7 out of 10 is more than enough in order to bank on having a financial success with your games. Just keep in mind, once again, it's the hardcore elitists that have to be giving you a 7 out of 10. Not Steam ratings, not your own personal opinion, not your mum's opinion. The hardcore cynical elitists have to, on average, think that your game is a 7 out of 10. The third way, which is like the 6 out of 10s or the decent games, this is what I think is like, you have to be doing something that is familiar yet novel and different. So this is what I'm trying to succeed in, because this gives you a lot more leeway into your execution of a game. So I try to do this as more of an entrepreneurial experience where I'm trying to solve a problem that I have within a genre and that I believe other people have within the genre as well. So you need to play a lot of games to understand what makes this genre fun, but also what are some common flaws and downsides with this genre that I can fix. And I think that this entrepreneurial approach is a pretty good way to be able to make games that people are going to want to play, even if you don't have this excellent execution. You still have to make a decent game. You still have to have a game that the hardcore cynic gamers are going to say, yeah, it's decent. So, like, they've still got to view it as a decent game. So for Healed to Death, my view on this was there's a couple 100 million people who have played MMORPGs. And I'd say maybe a fifth of those have engaged and had fun with the healing mechanic at some point. And of those, there are people who genuinely enjoy the gameplay of it rather than just the social aspect, and they want to experience that without having the massive time commitment that is required for MMOs, or they want to experience healing without the social pressures or the social annoyances that come with playing the game. And so, because there's no game that does this in a 3D setting, I was able to make a game that sort of fits in that slot. And that is sort of familiar yet novel. Now, I don't get to decide whether I hit the 6 out of 10 mark or if I hit the 5 out of 10 mark. But I think if you want financial success in sort of that entrepreneurial problem-solving style where you're really trying to improve or fix a issue in a genre, you need to get a 6 out of 10. And you're not going to get you're probably not going to get the mass appeal. Unless you get into the 8 range, and that's like, oh, people who just enjoy RTSs in general or MMORPG healing in general will all play your game. I just think that the 6 out of 10 is the benchmark on financial success with that approach to video game development. Now, I'm talking purely about low scope, low funds games. It's obviously going to be very different if you're in a team with funding and all that, but these are sort of like, I would say, are the benchmarks, which is if you get an 8 out of 10, you should be able to succeed with any genre. If you get a 7 out of 10, you should be able to succeed with popular genres. Like, making a decent horror game is just like, there's enough horror games for me to have my fill. But making a good horror game is like, hey, I should share this with other people. And then making a decent game, if it really solves a problem that hasn't really been done before, I think that can get you attention. So those are my opinions on sort of like the benchmarks I think you need to reach in order to have some sense of financial success within game dev as a like solo or duo dev, like just low cost. And maybe not spending 5 years on your projects. So anyway, that's it for this video. Have a good one. Bye.